Robert Schumann, or as my teacher used to call him, Crazy Bob, is a fascinating individual. He's a great pianist, probably even better composer. And if you're already familiar with his music, you know Robert Schumann has a knack for, in one moment, being beautiful, luscious, gorgeous romantic music, and then 2 seconds later, fast, whimsical, fun stuff. But I find it fascinating that Robert Schumann was like this from the very beginning. In this video, we're going to be checking out one of his earliest published pieces, his Opus 2, and you're going to see all the traits, all the fun quirkiness of Schumann's music, and also the beauty tucked into this wild, short collection of pieces. Little intro. And here's our main melody. I want you to notice right from the beginning here, first of all, this is our main melody. We're going to be waiting for this one actually to come back. I also want you to notice that even though I'm calling it a main melody, this is not a variation set. You can look at number 2 here and see it's completely different. And number 3, completely different. The pieces are related, and sometimes they call back to different themes, and we'll see that throughout the piece. But it's not a variation set. I think we're just used to seeing this like 1, 2, 3, 4 with a bunch of repeat signs and assuming it's a variation set. It's not. And that's the kind of fun stuff we see in Schumann. Again, this main melody is pretty beautiful. But then we immediately switch gears to this little tiny. Also, a quick note from the beginning, there are a lot of repeat / tempo marking issues with this piece. So depending on what version you played, if you played it, or what edition you've seen, if you're looking at edition, or what versions you've heard people play. Some people play way faster. Some people take repeats in slightly different places because, again, depending on what edition you get of the piece, you're going to get slightly different answers. Okay, up next here we have number 3, and this is one of my favorite ones from the entire set. I'm going to play a little bit for you first, get the sound in your ear, and then we'll talk about it. Pretty cool so far, right? Really different, deep, dark texture. Check out what happens next, though. So first of all, we have the melody in a major key now. Also in the right hand, but you see this little quirky F natural here. This is what we're talking about. If you're familiar with Schumann's music, it's full of these little fun moments where he didn't have to do that. He could have gone, that would have been correct, but instead, which creates the weird F natural sound, but also it creates some sort of rhythmic dissonance, right? Because we're in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We call that hemiola, by the way, when you're in 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But then you emphasize 3 groups of 2 instead of 2 groups of 3. So you get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could count that as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There you go. Now you know a cool music theory term, hemiola. But what happens next really makes it special. Listen first, then we'll look at it. So what happened there? We just had our melody, but we didn't know this at the beginning of the piece, but our original melody actually can work in a round with itself, in a canon with itself. Original melody, left hand. One of those cool tricks where, if I had written melody that worked in a round with itself, I'd be bragging about it from the very beginning. Schumann's like, you don't have to know it's cool. You just think, oh, it's a decent melody, right? Then you realize at the end of this little tiny short movement here that, oh, this can be played with itself at the same time, delayed by 2 measures. I gotta show you a little bit of number 4 just because it's such a cool sound. So just listen to this for a second. We're not going to overanalyze it, but just listen to the sound. So on the heels of number 3, which was an F sharp minor, you can roll right into this one. This is what makes this like set of pieces that Schumann does when he does sets of pieces like this. It's kind of fun because sometimes he chooses certain ones to be grouped together. We just ended in F sharp minor, then we start this one out, and it makes sense in F sharp minor. Okay, number 5 is a favorite of mine, and it really shows one of Schumann's hallmark abilities, and that's being able to play the most random chromaticisms and make them work. And you just hear beautiful melody. You're just like, oh, it's nice. But then if you play the individual sounds, or where you're learning this for yourself, you're like, okay, I gotta be misreading something here. There's no way I'm playing a E flat major chord with an F sharp at the same time. Well, what am I reading wrong? And you realize you're not reading anything wrong. It's just what he wrote. Listen to those notes there. Isn't that crazy? So you start out, life is good, right? Just a B flat major chord. Everything's good. Then you get this first little F sharp. Okay, we're going to a G minor chord. No, E flat. That makes sense though. You just filled in the gap. Nothing too crazy yet. And then this one. Then this one. Then this one. Then this one. So if you were just to look at what happens on the stronger beats, what happens on the 8th notes for 4 consecutive notes, we get this. I'm going to put it within 1 octave so you can hear the crunch more. This, this, this. Which the last one isn't that shocking, but... But again, that's one of Schumann's ability. It's just like he can do any chromaticism he wants. And as a listener, we're like, yeah, we'll accept that. It sounds great. But when you start to look at it, again, when you learn a piece like this, you're like, I gotta be missing a note here. There's no way those notes actually belong together. Check out just about 10 seconds here of number 6. What I want you to do is remember this. That downwards motion, just save it to your memory banks, okay? I don't want to talk about it too much right now, but just save it, click save. Remember that, falling chords, inverting, then that thing at the end, all right? It'll come back. Now, number 7 is the most traditionally, romantically beautiful of all of them. It's just what you expect out of. If I told you I was going to play something beautiful from the Romantic era on the piano, this is the kind of thing you'd expect. Just listen to these sounds. It's just gorgeous stuff, right? It is cool, though, how even in here, we see Schumann's kind of quirky texture. I know when you hear that, you just hear beauty, right? You just hear, oh, smooth, rolling chords. And it's tempting to think that the pianist is just sitting here, maybe just arpeggiating, you know, you scroll up a little bit here or scroll down a little, maybe just arpeggiating a chord, and you get... Maybe, but that's actually not what's happening. This is actually kind of difficult to play on the piano because you play a note, then 2 notes, then jump up, then pick up the bottom note, 2 notes on the bottom, pick up. It's a little awkward to make smooth and beautiful. And again, it kind of shows that Schumann quirkiness where you still have a lot of this back and forth. It's simultaneously doing this thing, you have these juxtaposed figures kind of in the center, but at the same time, it's just the most... This is a beautiful romantic piece. You could just play this out of context. You could actually, this one actually ends normal. Some of them don't really end on a good strong chord. We're going to listen to a little bit of number 10 here, and we are well over halfway there as far as numbers are concerned. There's 10, 11, 12 pieces over. However, they do get a lot longer and more substantial as they go along. We're going to listen to a little number 10 here because it is a more just fleshed out piece. And also we got a tie up a loose end from earlier. So check this out. So that guy's coming back now. That it was in the key of A earlier, that moving down inverted chord texture. Here we have it in the key of G. Let's keep going. Now, like I said, this is the more substantial chunk, movement, whatever you want to call it. It's a short piece in this set of bigger pieces. But listen once again, we're still number 10. This is still number 10. Listen to what he does with this kind of middle section of this piece in just a sec here. So on one hand, you can say, well, yeah, he's just showing off that he can literally play whatever note he wants to, and we'll just accept it, right? It's so chromatic. But also, this should sound familiar to you. This, as I scroll, is the very beginning. We returned to the intro, not number one. That one's the variation one. It's not variation set. We didn't go to there. We went back to the intro. Scroll back down to here, number 10. So that is our little intro again, obviously in a weird key and weird notes with it. But this is like a very cyclical piece, not just like little one-off pieces you always play. This makes a lot more sense to play as a set because it's number 10, and number 10 is a little more substantial. In the middle of number 10, you get this. Remember that at the very beginning? We're just going to play it kind of weird and chromatic and minor, but this is our intro now showing up again, not necessarily at the very end, but in number 10. And that trend of them becoming more substantial as we go along definitely continues in number 11. There's like an intro to this. We also get a little tune. And then we go on to a different tune. It even has its own slow, beautiful middle section. But now we're ready for our finale. Check this out. Now, what have we not done yet? This is a big set of 12 different pieces, an intro in 12 pieces. Each one has been getting slightly longer, not always one to the next longer, but longer in general as it's gone along. It's very cyclical. We keep bringing back old themes. Schumann, like if you listen to this whole thing for 10 or 15 minutes, it's just going to be one, probably 15, not 10, one kind of grand composition that makes sense and hangs together. But there's one thing we haven't done, and we don't have to do it, but it's kind of nice when we do. And it happens right here. So even though he's brought back some parts of the intro, some parts of the other movements, he hasn't brought back number 1, which again, he doesn't have to, but it's kind of nice. It kind of makes that feel like the main theme of the piece. However, just like our F sharp minor one, that's always really cool because it can be played in a canon, but Schumann doesn't spoil that until later. Schumann's revealing right now at the end of the piece that, hey, by the way, can be played at the same time as, I don't know if you noticed that, but that was going on in the left hand while the right hand was playing our original melody. Now, what makes this merging so difficult on the brain? Like when I play this movement, it's easy in thought. Like it's not hard to do. And if you have a canon, if you're pretty good at both parts, sometimes you can just sort of autopiloted because you're like, well, yeah, this hand is playing this hand is playing this. I thought the earlier canon wasn't that hard because they just offset by 2 measures. You can kind of lock in 2 measures offset. This is really difficult because that's not a canon. These are 2 different melodies that are being paired together at the same time, but they don't start at the same time. When the first melody is on its final 2 measures, the second melody begins. If you start the 2 melodies at the same time, you get... They don't sound good together at all. Even for Schumann standards, they don't sound good. So what you have to do is play the main tune and then wait till you're 75% of the way done with it. And then you let the second melody start. However, that is not the last trick of this piece. The funniest, quirkiest thing has actually yet to happen, and it is brilliant. Check out how this piece ends. Okay, beginning. Okay, ending. It just dies. Like our first melody from number 1 just kind of gives up. 7 notes. 6 notes. 5 notes. 4 notes. 3 notes. 2 notes. 1 note. He literally just subtracts them one at a time. That's it. Don't you wish you had the confidence to end a piece like that? Playing a giant rolled chord. He literally just says, hold them. He goes through all this work of writing all the ties and then ties the whole rest. Just to say, hey, would you put all these notes? Then just let him go one at a time, awkwardly. And then we all just think maybe he forgot how the piece goes. Does he not know where to go next? And you just go. That's all.